On January 20th, 2017, Donald Trump will become President of the United States. After this past election, a lot of Americans were left either stunned and confused or happy that their president won. So, how did Donald Trump get there? Not specifically Donald Trump, even, but how did any president get elected? How does the United States elect a president? So, the process to elect a president has many steps, and every president that the United States has gone through these steps, with the exception of a few who have taken over when the president has died. Today I'm going to inform you about the process of being elected president that a candidate must take in order to get to the highest office in the United States. I've completed a lot of research on this and a lot of looking at past elections and how different aspects of this process have affected them. So the steps in becoming president, the main steps, first you have to meet the requirements as outlined by the Constitution. You must go through primary elections to become nominated to become the nominee for your party. And then you must get through the Electoral College to ultimately be elected to president. So according to Politics for Dummies, written by Ann Delaney, active participants in furthering their causes and volunteering time or money to help their party are the ones who are going to ultimately become nominees for president. But these nominees must meet some constitutional requirements. So the United States Constitution, in Article 2, Section 1, Paragraph 5, says no person except a natural-born citizen or a citizen of the United States at the time of the adoption of this Constitution shall be eligible to the office of president, neither shall any person be eligible to that office who shall not have attained to the age of 35 years and been 14 years a resident within the United States. So all of these really confusing ways of saying this basically break down to: 1, the person needs to be 35 years old. 2, the person needs to be a natural-born citizen of the United States. This means that their parents must also be citizens. This makes it really unclear, and it's never actually completely been cleared up as to whether or not somebody who is born a citizen outside of the United States can be president, but there's no precedent to determine that yet. And then also the 14 years a resident does not have to be a consecutive 14 years. It's not very specific on that. It doesn't even have to be the 14 years leading up to becoming president. So any 14-year collection in their whole life of time living in the United States makes a person eligible to be president. So once a person meets these requirements, they must then become the nominee for their party. We have a two-party system in the United States: Democrats and Republicans. There are various third parties, but they're usually very small and don't have a lot of impact on the whole process. So the book, What You Should Know About Politics But Don't by Jessamyn Conrad, was written in 2012, and it did a really great job of outlining how a person becomes the nominee for their party. So for Democrats, the process depends very heavily on primary elections. Voters will select a nominee on their ballot, and then the nominee is not directly chosen for to be the candidate for presidency. What then happens is they go to their national convention. Delegates are selected at state conventions to be sent to the national convention, and the delegates are the ones that vote on who is going to be their candidate. Most delegates are called pledge delegates. These delegates are required to vote for whoever their state that they came from voted for by simple majority. But there are some delegates in the Democratic Party who are called superdelegates, and these are party insiders. They don't have to vote for whoever their party in the specific state chose. They are able to vote for whoever they think is going to best fit the needs and best suited to the party's agenda at that time. So Republicans have a little bit different process. It's still very similar, but they have about half as many delegates as the Democrats have. The way they decide the number of delegates, each state has 6 delegates, plus 3 for every member of Congress that that state has. The Virgin Islands, Guam, and American Samoa each get 4 delegates. And then Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico each get 14 delegates. The Republicans have a process where they are able to hand out bonus delegates. So if a specific area does really well in promoting the party's agenda at a local level, that state can be awarded bonus delegates, which would give them extra votes going towards the president, or towards the party nominee, sorry. But most most states, the Republican parties have a winner-take-all process. So whoever in that state gets the majority of the votes gets all of the delegates for that state. So once the national conventions occur, the delegates vote, we come down to 2 nominees, a Democratic nominee and a Republican nominee. And again, there can be third-party nominees, but because the third parties aren't as well organized and as large as the 2 main parties, they're not typically considered really even an option. So when we get to the general election, voters who are registered go to the polls on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, and they vote for their preferred choice for president. The New York Times has an article called "How Does the Electoral College Work?" It was published on November 8th, 2016, and it was written by Jonah Bromwich. And it did a great job of outlining the Electoral College and how that works. So the Electoral College, after the popular vote, the results are sent to the Electoral College. Each state is assigned a different number of electors, and these electors are selected by voting in that state. And a lot of voters don't even realize they're selecting electors when they do it. All of the states, except for Maine, which has 4 Electoral College votes, and Nebraska, which has 5. Every other state is winner take all. So whoever the majority in the state votes for, all of the Electoral College votes go to that candidate. The way Maine works, and also Nebraska, the popular vote gets 2 Electoral College votes, and then the remaining 2 for Maine and the remaining 3 for Nebraska go by their voting districts. So Maine has 2 voting districts, so the popular vote in each voting district gets a vote, and the same with Nebraska. They have 3 voting districts, so the popular vote in each of the 3 gets a vote. So there could be, it could be 4-1, it could be any 2 would go to the popular, and then the other 3 just depends on that area. So if you look at on this chart, California has 55 Electoral College votes. If you just look at New Mexico down, that's 54 votes. So for somebody, if one candidate wins California, it would be a lot of small states that would have to other candidate would have to win to make up that difference. This is why these states over here are the ones who you see the candidates campaigning in a lot, because those are the ones on election day when the Electoral College votes that really matter. So in conclusion, there are steps to becoming president. You must first meet the requirements. You must then become a nominee. And then you have to get through the Electoral College and get the majority of the 538 votes, which right now is 270. So I really hope that this has helped you understand exactly how presidents get elected, the process that it takes. And once all of this is complete and one nominee comes out victorious, the only thing left to do, as outlined in Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, is to be sworn in using the words, "I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States of America." Thank you.
Yay.
I feel so much smarter now.
Now I know something. I didn't know all that stuff.
So who said we're too old?